Hey, Coach Bethany and Caitlin coming with another trainer talk. We don't have Taylor today. He is in some really sunny weather right now, enjoying living it up. But we are here to bring you some really good lessons and tips that we've gathered from our time, personal training, working out, etc. So Caitlin, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, so we kind of just decided that we would pick like each of our top 5 lessons that we've learned over however many years that we've been working out and training. So my first one that I have is that carbs aren't bad for you. This is something that has become so popular, the keto diet, cutting out carbs to lose fat and stuff like that. And although not all of it is necessarily bad, I've fallen into the trap of believing all of that stuff without doing my own research, without truly learning about what carbs do for your body. And so I guess the biggest thing that I've learned is that carbs are not bad for you. Carbs are not the enemy. They actually are your main source of energy. And just like a car needs gas for energy to run and to fuel up, we need carbs for our fuel. We need all food groups, but carbs are that main source of energy. If you're feeling sluggish, if you're feeling tired all the time, you're probably not eating enough carbs. So that is my first biggest tip that I've learned, and that a lot of people kind of get wrong.
Yeah, especially when you're doing a high intensity activity like CrossFit, or if you're doing some aerobic training, kind of like, biking, or you're doing 5Ks, weight training, you really do need carbs because that's the main fuel source for the energy. Now there's some different energy sources that your body uses for different types of energy, and carbs is used for any type of weight training or that like 2 to 3 minute, 1 to 3 minute window of work where you're either lifting weights or you're running in those somewhat moderate to high intensity intervals or threshold. So it's really important to have that because that's what our body needs to perform at its best. And a lot of people get the misconception that carbs are bad and they're going to put on fat, or they're going to do something really weird with your insulin. But it really does just come down to like overall, what do you eat? Is it mostly unprocessed and good quality foods? Next one for me is focusing one day or one rep, one set at a time. It's really hard when you look across the whole workout of what we have to do when there's like 5 different things and 6 sets of each, and it can become really daunting if you look at it whole picture, right? Now, if you just break it down into, okay, can I do 1 more set of squats or can I do 1 more rep? Yes, you can always do 1 more rep. But if you look ahead and you're like, oh my gosh, I have 10 more sets to do, I'm not gonna be able to do it. So you already get into your head about it. Same thing with like starting a new diet or a new habit. If you can do it for 1 day, then you're good. Like as long as you can do it 1 day at a time, you're okay. Because you can kind of piece it down and attack it that way. You just kind of repeat the same day over and over. It's like a little bit of like a Groundhog Day situation at that point.
Yeah, and it's the same thing when you're looking at even like a full week. It can just seem like, I don't know if I can work out 5 days this week or 3 days this week, but just take it, like Bethany said, 1 day at a time. Start with just warming up, because a lot of the times it's hard just getting started. Like that's the hardest part, and you're just in your head thinking about it. But once you kind of get moving and get going, even just warming up, you'll start to get into it and you'll feel better, and then it's not so bad once you get going. Right. My next one is there's no such thing as toning. That's probably what people want the most when they come to us, is to get toned, but they don't want to weightlift because they don't want to build too much muscle. When what toning is it is losing fat and gaining muscle. So you have to do weightlifting and gain the muscle in order to get that toned look. That's literally what it is losing fat and putting on muscle.
Yeah, it's exactly kind of like you mentioned with, you have to build the physique underneath and then reveal it through fat loss. And for some people, when they first start off, you can do both at the same time. A lot of people lose fat and gain muscle at the same time when they first start lifting weights and they improve their diet. And that lasts for a while. It's called like newbie gains, right? You're making dramatic transformations right away, and then it slows down at a certain point, and you kind of have to attack it a little bit differently once you have been in the gym for a while and you're not seeing that progress. You've kind of hit a plateau. You need to focus on one or the other. So focusing on building muscle is going to give more shape. People think, mostly women, is that if you start lifting weights, you eat too much protein, you're gonna get bulky and huge muscles like a guy, and it's incredibly hard to do unless you're taking some sort of special sport supplements. Otherwise, I mean, we lift weights 5 days a week and we're not like super huge. And I mean, some days we wish some muscles were bigger or stronger, and it's just not that easy because it's not like we're not working hard, right? So just kind of keeping that in perspective of you need to do both, build the muscle and lose the fat, and then that's kind of where you get that toned look. Another one is you shouldn't be constantly trying to lose weight. So that kind of ties in with that one is you should spend time focusing on building muscle and trying to just maintain your current weight. Maybe, you know, just trying to increase your 1 rep max back squat or some sort of a performance goal rather than always trying to see a smaller number on the scale. Because long term, it's not sustainable to always be trying to lose fat. I mean, you're gonna get down to a point where you're eating not enough calories in a day to really support your function, so then the rest of your life is affected, right? So you have to kind of weigh out like, all right, I could get there really fast, but am I gonna be able to stay at that point? It's better to go in like little spurts. So like, you know, go on a fat loss diet, everyone starts around January, right? So do that for 3 months, and then April rolls around, kind of just hang out at maintenance. Try to just maintain your new weight. Say you lose 10, 15, maybe 20 pounds. Try to just stay there. Focus on, you know, maybe eating a little bit more food, enjoying some parts of life, working out really hard. And then, you know, a couple months later, once you're like ready to diet again mentally and physically, then you can go back to it.
Yeah, and another thing is if you're constantly trying to lose weight, you are going to be miserable. Like, you're never going to enjoy life. And I just think life is way too short to constantly be trying to lose weight, to never go out and celebrate by having ice cream or eating cake or whatever you enjoy, donuts. You know, obviously we don't want to eat those things all the time, but those are things that, and you can eat those and still lose weight, so that is possible too. But if you are constantly focusing on the number on the scale, if you're weighing yourself every day and that's just defeating you every single day, like, what is even the point of it? Why do you want to live so unhappily and do that to yourself every single day? So focus on other things. And the crazy thing is, if you start to focus on building muscle and not so much looking at weight loss, you're probably going to end up losing weight in the long run anyways. But it's just so bad to have that mindset of only looking at weight loss and nothing else. Another thing is, which kind of goes along with that too, is that you cannot spot reduce fat. So a lot of people, especially women, come in and say, oh, what exercises can I do to lose my stomach fat? You can't do any exercises just to specifically reduce your stomach fat. You can do all the crunches and sit-ups in the world, but if your diet isn't right, your nutrition isn't good, you're not going to lose any stomach fat or any fat anywhere else. Losing fat comes down to nutrition. Like, that's literally what it is. I forgot what I was going to say. Do you have anything to add to that? I lost my thought.
So for spot reducing fat, when people think that certain exercises tone that area, you can make it look like you have less body fat in a certain area by growing the muscle underneath, right? So let's say I want to have my shoulders look more toned, even though it's not a thing. But we want to make them look like they have less body fat, right? So if you have, say, this is your muscle, and then this is the body fat that's covering it. If you expand the size of the muscle, the fat has to spread out. There's more surface area, so it looks like you have less body fat. So that's why some people with more muscle naturally look a little bit more leaner. And that's where some people can make the case for spot reducing, because you're doing those shoulder exercises and, oh, it looks like you're getting leaner. Whereas you're not really spot reducing the fat, you're spot like increasing the muscle. So it's a little bit reversed, because exercise isn't something that burns fat. That's more of like a bodily process. It does burn fat, it burns energy, but doing a specific exercise, what you're working is the muscle. You're not working the fat at all. So by working the muscle, it burns energy so that you can then burn the fat. So it's not like a direct process of, oh, I'm doing shoulder raises, so now I'm going to burn the fat off my shoulders and arms, right? So it's a little bit different there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say. And then I was also going to say, like, everyone's body is a little bit differently. So in order to lose fat, it comes down to nutrition and obviously doing like cardio. So getting your heart pumping fast, burning those calories. And as you're doing anything cardiovascular, that will help lose fat. But everyone kind of like loses fat in different areas a little bit quicker than others, and like some people hang on to fat in other places a little more than the next person. So you can't compare yourself to anybody else, especially when you look at the male versus the female. You know, a guy doesn't hold as much stomach fat as a female does, and that is just normal. That's just how we were made, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's easy to compare yourself to somebody who is competing in a competition, like a bikini competition, for example, and say, oh, I just want her abs, or I want to look like her, where she's not healthy. Like, she is so unhealthy that it is like,
she only looks like that on one day.
She looks like that on one day.
For a couple of hours.
Looks like that for a little bit. As soon as she comes off of that, she's going to have to start eating again to put on fat, because it's healthy to have some fat. You do not want to be too low on your body fat. So
yeah, exactly. My third one is to compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. So that actually kind of correlates with the bikini shows. Like, you see a fitness influencer or some sort of professional athlete, and you see what they can do, what they look like, and you think, oh, dang, I wish I looked like that. I wish I could do that. Well, you're comparing yourself to someone who's been doing this for 10 plus years, right? And if you've only started for 1 or 2 years, you know, we kind of fall a lot. I know I fall into that trap sometimes. I'm sure most people do, whether they compare themselves maybe to us, of like, oh, I wish, you know, we could do the stuff that you guys do, or lift the weights the way you do. And it's not like we just started and were able to do that. You know, it's taken a lot of hours, and it's taken weeks, months, years of consistent training and diet to get to where we are, and then let alone looking at like the highest level, and trying to compare yourself to that is like, I don't know, comparing yourself to a baby and then comparing a 5-year-old, right? And be like, well, the baby can't do what the 5-year-old can, why isn't it walking yet? You have to kind of think about it like it takes time to develop certain skills, and you have to be a little gentle with yourself and just look back on, okay, where was I a year ago? Am I better than I was a year ago? Yes. Okay, cool. Then just keep moving on the right direction, and you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to do that weightlifting doesn't make you bulky, but we kind of already hit on that, so I added in a different one. Don't expect results right away. Don't even always expect results in a month, 2 months. It takes time. People become so obsessed with seeing results like literally the day after they do one workout, or even a week after, even a month after, and your body just needs time to adapt. Or people get frustrated if they've been working out for a month and they only look at the scale and the scale goes up, and there's a million different reasons that could be happening. That doesn't mean that your body isn't changing, and that doesn't mean that you're not losing fat or whatever your goal is. So just don't expect results right away. You have to give it time. Like, I've been working out for 5, 6, I lost track how many years. And I've gone through so many phases, and my body has gone through so many changes over the last 5 or 6 years that it's crazy. So just give it time. I would say give it a good year. Like, get yourself into a routine for a year, and then look and see how much you've changed from the day one to that year later.
Yeah, because it's really crazy if you look back and you're like, oh, this was the weight that I was using last time, and the form was awful, and you're like, who let me do that? But you have to have those stages where you're like, ooh, you know, my technique was awful on that, or my squat depth was not even close. And you have to have those as like a learning curve to get to where, you know, you want to be, or to get to where you are now, right? You can't just jump up to the level you want to be. You have to put in the work to get there. And it's, you know, for some people it's a fast process, for some people it's slower. And depending on how much time and effort you put in, depending on your genetics, a bunch of different factors come into it of how fast you're able to get there. Obviously some people are able to get there faster, and, you know, just don't get discouraged by that, because when it comes down to it, everyone's different, everyone's journey is different for its own reasons, and just try and take lessons like we did from our journey, and then you can apply it to the future. My next one is to keep it simple, the KISS method. And when it comes to diet or exercise, people like to put out the sexy stuff of like, oh, let's do these Bosu ball, jump squat, push press exercise because it's going to tone your whole body fast, and it's like, it's way too complicated. You need to just keep it to the simple stuff of the compound movements, vary it up a little bit from reps or weight, progressive overload, try to either increase in reps or weight, keep the rest times around the same. For your cardio and your Metcon, change those up a little bit, but the basic structure of your workouts should be the same every day you come in, right? You should have your strength, your accessory movements, some sort of a cardio or Metcon, some core, stretching before and after, keeping it simple, keeping it routine. Same thing with diet. Honestly, the one thing that I've learned is to do it as easy as possible. Like, you can make the most extravagant meal prep that's, tastes amazing, but it takes, 3, 4, 5 hours to do it that way. And sometimes you just don't have the time, or you just don't want to do that. So I've kept it as simple and easy that I can do, like one pot meals, slow cooker meals where I have my meats, my veggies, and my carbs all in one. And the easier it is for me to do it, the more likely I am able to stick with it. And then for a while I was like, I can't eat the same thing every day, I'm gonna get bored. And like maybe the exact same thing would be bad, but having like 2 or 3 different options for like breakfast, lunch, dinner, a snack, or another meal, it just kind of helps to take your decision out of it. Because once you're given the choice of when you're already hungry and you're standing with an open fridge of like, oh, what do I want to eat? I'm so hungry. You're going to reach for the fastest thing, whatever you kind of want in that moment, and you're not going to look long term. Now, if you already have your meal prepped, and then you still are presented with that pizza that's left over in the fridge from last Friday night, you're probably still you might choose between the pizza and your meal prep, because you can see like, okay, I should make this choice, and you're going to be more likely to stick on your plan.
Yeah, I literally did that this morning.
Really?
yeah, there was like something else, which it wasn't really necessarily bad. Something else that I wanted to bring for a lunch, but I was like, well, I already have my lunch prepped for today, and so I need to eat it up before it gets bad, because you're not going to waste your food, especially if you spent time cooking it. But I am the same way. I keep it so simple that I kind of don't like when people ask me like what I eat, because I almost feel like it's ridiculously simple, where they're gonna think I'm boring. But that's just the truth. Is if it's too overcomplicated, I'm not gonna do it. I don't have time to sit there and make a 5-course meal or make something super fancy that takes 3 hours. That's my lifestyle. I don't have the time for that. And so if I don't keep it simple and I don't make things that are easy and almost the same, I might switch it up a little bit week to week, but it's pretty much the same, and that just works for me. That is, I feel like doing that has helped me see results quicker, because it's just consistency is best when it comes to everything. When it comes to working out, when it comes to nutrition, our body just likes consistency. So yeah, I definitely think that is the best way to go about it, is just keep it simple.
Right.
So, okay, I have one more. Bethany has 2 more. She's an overachiever, but
well, you gave me one of yours.
Yeah, I kind of gave her one of mine just to go over. But my last one is that I personally don't think you're ever going to be satisfied, no matter what you look like, no matter what you accomplish. It is so easy to, no matter if you hit your weight loss goal, if you hit, maybe you want to gain weight, maybe you hit that goal, you're always going to be striving for the next thing. You're never going to be satisfied, and I think that's where comparison really comes into play, at least for me personally. I know I've hit certain goals, but then, maybe I hit a weight loss goal, but then I see somebody who has, just the biggest muscles that I think are so awesome, and I'm like, well, now I want that.
Yeah.
And then maybe I get to that, but then I'm like, oh, I want to be a little more shredded now. Like, I just think, or I want a bigger butt, or I want more abs, or there's just so many things. Like, I just think that you're never satisfied, and so you just need to know that, like, and just to enjoy the process, enjoy every single step of your journey, and just find contentment where you're at, because, again, I just think you're never satisfied, but also let that drive you to setting new goals every single time, and just always going after something new, whether it's learning a new skill, or whatever it is that you can think of.
Yeah, it really does come down to like the process. That's what gives us our most satisfaction, and our most dedication goes to carrying out those daily habits, daily activities that are going to get you to your goal. Just humans as a species have evolved to do that, is to always be chasing something, always be looking at the next thing. And that's why we've become such an instant gratification type society of like always looking for something new, something more exciting, that like that silver, flashy, I forget the saying of it, but it's where like you're going to the next new thing because it's shiny object syndrome. That's what it is. And like you're never going to be satisfied with whatever amount of weight you lift, however you look. You can become more comfortable with it, or you can be satisfied with a certain part of it, but you're always going to be chasing something else. So that kind of comes into like your goals will change at a certain point too. Like for certain things, pretty much when everyone starts out, you want to change your body, how it looks, and then a lot of people figure out that they care more about what their body can do versus what they look like. And I think that's one of the benefits of like training for a sport like CrossFit or powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting or running, something like that. Like you're still getting in shape, you're still improving your physique, but your focus and on the process is more about what you're able to do and improving that versus like how you look. And I really love that, especially for young girls growing up. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things that people probably don't think about, is because you hit that age of, I don't even know, like 13 to 18. It's in those teenage years, you know, in high school, sometimes even in middle school or through college, where, you know, your body is changing. Same thing for guys, and they're just not super confident in how they look, who they are yet, because they're young, they're developing. And I mean, shoot, I'm young and not developing, but anyways, speaking from experience, I guess, it's good to have them focus on a goal of like, oh yeah, I want to lift more weight, I want to be able to do pull-ups and muscle-ups, and it's really cool to see that become the focus, rather than, you know, if they're just going into the gym because they want to look a certain way, like an influencer or something like that. And I think that that's really powerful. My next one is focus on what you can do and not what you can't. And that goes for whether you're working out, focusing on what you're able to do and not what you're not able to do yet. So it comes with, you know, following the process. But I also apply it to diet. You know, you don't want to focus on the foods you can't have, because then you want it even more. So there's like this experiment of, say, don't think of a white elephant. First thing that pops into your mind is a white elephant. So you can't not think about it. Your mind doesn't really know those negatives. So when you see the foods that you're like, oh, I can't have that, or I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go out because, you know, I'm on this diet, so I can't go out to eat and hang out with friends. Well, then your mind just wants it. Like, it wants to be that rebellious teenager and be like, no, you can't put these rules on me. So you're much more likely to fall off at that point, rather than focusing on what you can do, which is, okay, I can still go out and hang out with friends, just make sure I get my protein and veggies, and center your meal around that. And, you know, have a meal. Pretty much a lot of restaurants, you can do steak, potatoes, or rice and veggies, and that's got your protein, your carbs, your veggies all right there. So you can kind of find a balance. I think being flexible with it, but not loose. You don't want to be too rigid, and you don't want to be too loose in your diet. You want to be somewhere in the middle of, like, you know, kind of stick to a plan, but know that you can vary it up a little bit. You know, you don't have to eat the exact same thing every day. Even though that helps to keep you on track, it's okay if you go out on the weekends and it's not on your diet. And as long as you choose an option that's kind of close or similar, then you're still gonna get really good results.
I like that a lot. So I'll kind of talk about like the exercise side of that, since you did more of the nutrition, which I thought was really, really good. So when it comes to exercise, there's always going to be things that you can't do, especially if you're starting out new, or even if you're more of a seasoned person. If you're trying to learn something new, it can be really frustrating. Like, there was a time and place I could not deadlift properly. I couldn't do probably even an overhead press properly. Like, literally the most simple things now there was a time when I couldn't do them, but that doesn't mean that you should just give up and quit trying. Focus on what you can do, like Bethany said. So maybe you can do dumbbell RDLs, or you can do squats. Like, do what you can, and then I would say just get help. Watch videos, learn how to do the things by, you can get a personal trainer, you can come to a class and learn. And there's 1,000,005 YouTube videos out there on every single exercise if you don't know how to do it. But just learn to keep going and not give up when it comes to that department.
Yeah. The last one comes down to protein, which is very important when you want to build muscle, when you want to lose fat, when you want to increase your performance in the gym. It ties into all your different goals. Like, protein is just amazing. Most people in the fitness space agree. Some people say that, oh, you're eating too much protein, but I don't know, I don't pay attention to them. But anyways, the general recommendation is 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. It kind of varies for everyone based on your goal. And the interesting thing is, when your goal is to gain muscle, you probably don't need as much protein as when you're trying to lose fat. And that becomes a reason is because you're eating more overall calories, so you have more energy being burned from the carbs and fats, and your body's not using any of the protein as energy to fuel your activity. So it can use all that protein into building muscle. And it takes energy to build the muscle. So having those extra carbs and fats is important. Being in that, calorie maintenance or calorie surplus level, so eating at or a little bit above what you burn daily, it allows your body to use that protein into creating new muscle. This is also a very slow process. That's why it's really hard to get bulky. But doing this, you are either going to have to stay at your same weight or gain a little bit of weight doing that. But by doing it this way, you're able to maximize whatever protein you're taking in, and then having your muscles utilize it in repairs and growth, creating that adaptation by resistance training. And then it's really similar when it comes to losing fat, but you actually need more protein because you have less of the carbs and fats. So less of the energy that your body uses for exercise, for daily activities, just to keep your body functioning. It's going to use a little bit more of the protein as fuel. So you still need to have more protein, so then that way whatever gets burned or whatever muscle gets broken down, it's going to be able to repair it and at least maintain your muscle, right? Because we don't want to lose weight but just lose it for muscle, because then we don't have that shape. We won't have that toned look if you lose your muscle. So when you're dieting, you don't want to be too severe, and you want to keep your protein high enough so that you can maintain that muscle, because it's really hard to get and it's really hard to work for too. But having that, closer to that 1 gram per pound of body weight is probably what's going to maximize your muscle retention, and then actually it'll help with fat loss a little bit. So they've done a study where people actually overate, but it was only in protein, about 200 to 300 calories worth of, that's probably like an extra chicken breast, honestly. They overate on protein, but the two different study groups kept their carbs and their fats the same. So the one group was just eating more protein, and they actually had a little bit better results than the other group. And it's kind of wild because, we always say, oh, it comes down to calorie balance and that sort of thing, but they were able to grow a little bit more muscle and lose a little bit more fat during that, experiment. And it's kind of like a hard one to explain since we say that, but they might have been able to just build muscle more or retain their muscle better, so they were able to burn more fat because of that, or they were able to take the fat that they were burning and use it to build muscle. So whatever exactly happened in that one is different, but protein is very crucial when it comes to when you want to lose fat or when you want to build muscle. It's important for both things.
Yeah, I remember when I started really focusing on my protein intake, probably around the same time that I started doing CrossFit, and it was just crazy the results that, my weight on the scale did go up a little bit, but my body fat actually went down. I was stronger, I was feeling better, and it's just crazy. Protein is just the best. I always make sure to have it with every meal, every snack. It is just, I saw those results for myself, and I wasn't trying to lose body fat or trying to lose weight at all. And I remember when I first stepped on the scale after a little while of increasing my protein, I was like, that's weird that like my weight's going up. Like it didn't really affect me, but I was like, that's kind of weird. But then when we did the in-body, it said that my fat had gone down. And
Was it like 2% or something?
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was just really crazy cool to see. So
yeah, and
protein is awesome.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to see that kind of like a recount for someone like you who was training before, like resistance training, and you were already eating, you know, really healthy. And then that change in training, and then, you know, increasing the protein, like probably focusing more on just like what you can do, and your body like changed. Like obviously you were already pretty lean, and then to go, you know, 2% less is actually quite a big transformation from just like such little changes. Yeah. So that's all of our tips. Hopefully you guys can take something away, apply it to where you're at right now. Maybe put something in perspective for you of like, okay, we didn't start out knowing everything about health and fitness. We didn't start out with the perfect form, but you can get there if you put in the effort and you put in enough time and work. And hopefully you're able to take a couple of things, improve your health and fitness. And as always, stay healthy. Talk to you guys next week.